Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Shelly Speaks Truth right here on 2rawfortv.tv. I'm your host, Shelly Speaks, and if you are here for the first time, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. Right now, we are streaming from a few other platforms, which is usually YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, the usual suspects. But that is not for the entirety of the show. If you would like to see the entire show, you will have to come over to 2rawfortv.tv. And again, that is where you will see the entirety of the show. That is the number 2, raw, the number 4, tv.tv. Again, the number 2, raw, the number 4, tv.tv. And once again, welcome, and thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Now, before we get started, some of you may have been here for quite some time, and I really do appreciate your support. If you would like to further show your support because you appreciate the commentary and you like what I'm doing here, I do ask that you all please consider getting a paid subscription that will help the network to grow, that will help my show to grow. And it's something that, I'm very grateful for. And if you do decide to go ahead and get that paid subscription, you can do that by going over to 2rawfortv.tv and finding the subscribe link that will have the paid subscriptions there. Monthly prices, extremely reasonable. And once again, that will help the network to grow, that will help my show to grow, so I can continue bringing this commentary that I can't really bring to you on any of the other platforms out there. So again, go ahead and check out those subscriptions. Your contributions are greatly appreciated, and may your contributions be blessed tenfold. Now, with that being said, once again, welcome to the show. I will be opening the phone lines in a little bit, so if you would like to call in and with any questions, any comments, please feel free to do that. If you're someone that doesn't really like to be on air or call in, you can also drop a comment in the comment section. We do check the comment section from time to time. So feel free to chime in whichever way you choose, call, comment, whatever you may choose to do, because I would like to hear from you all, on tonight's commentary. So please feel free to go ahead and call when I open the phone lines, or drop your comments in the comment section. We do check the comments from time to time, and we'll go ahead and respond to your comment. Now, man, there's been so much going on in the news cycle. It's hard to keep up with everything that is going on, because from day to day, there's just some new craziness happening within this country. Right now, there's a lot going on with immigration, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But there's a story that went viral for a minute. A lot of people were talking about it, but it kind of disappeared from the news cycle. And I'm going to go ahead and get into that clip because, it's when it comes to a certain group of people, it never ceases to amaze me the type of shenanigans that these people are up to. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll that clip, and I'll further discuss it on the other side.
We want to warn you that this next story contains details that are rather disturbing and may not be appropriate for young audiences. 2 Texas men have been charged in connection with allegedly plotting to invade a Haitian island, murdering the men there, using the women and children as sex slaves. Authorities say that the 2 were also planning to recruit people experiencing homelessness here in the district to help them with their plot. And there's also an alleged connection to Joint Base Andrews right here at home. John Duran has been looking over all of these court documents all day long. John, no doubt some very wild and rather disturbing allegations there.
Yeah, serious allegations, Larry. 21-year-old Gavin Weisenberg and 20-year-old Tanner Thomas are facing federal charges, including conspiracy to murder, maim, or kidnap in a foreign country. If convicted, that carries a sentence up to life in prison. The U.S. Attorney's Office out of Texas's Eastern District says over the course of about a year, Tanner Thomas and Gavin Weisenberg plan to invade Ganav Island, a territory of the Republic of Haiti. Court documents filed Thursday show Thomas and Weisenberg allegedly plan to take the island by force, murder all the men on the island, which has a population of about 87,000 people, and carry out their rape fantasies by turning the remaining women and children into sex slaves. Investigators say the two plan to buy a sailboat to travel from the United States to Ganav Island. They also plan to purchase military-style rifles to use in their coup. According to court documents, in January of this year, Thomas enlisted in the Air Force to gain military training to help carry out the attack. Officials say in February 2025, while in basic training, Thomas had himself reassigned from Ramstein Air Base in Germany to Joint Base Andrews here in Prince George's County. Court documents say he did this to be closer to D.C., so he could allegedly recruit people experiencing homelessness to be part of their plot. In August 2024, Weisenberg allegedly enrolled in the North Texas Fire Academy to get trained in command and control protocols. Court documents show Weisenberg failed out of the academy in February 2025. Afterwards, Weisenberg allegedly traveled to Thailand to enroll in sailing school, but didn't follow through with it because the training was too expensive. Investigators say the two suspects also studied Haitian Creole to help facilitate their armed coup plot. On top of those allegations, federal prosecutors allege at some point during their plan to overthrow Ganav Island, Thomas and Weisenberg also coerced a minor to be in a child pornography that they filmed. They face 15 to 30 years in prison if convicted of that offense, Larry.
All right. Of course, we will wait and see how things progress through the legal system. John Duran, we appreciate the information. Thank you so much.
Man, I just want to say something really quick. And shout out to our beloved ancestor, Khalid Muhammad, because Khalid Muhammad would always say, if you think that these people are any different from their ancestors, you're a damn fool. And yes, I'm generalizing. Obviously not everyone, but too many of these people like to carry on the traditions of their genocidal, psychopathic ancestors. Now, we live in the United States of America, and for the most part, people who live in the United States of America, they live relatively better than a lot of people in this world. You know, there's a lot of comforts in this nation, and these are two white males who have white male privilege. You know, they get things handed to them for being mediocre, and they're still just not satisfied. What is going on? You're, like I said, you're living in a country where you pretty much have everything you need. And you decide that you're going to get up and go and basically attempt to colonize an island of people who are just minding their business. I mean, these people really, for the most part, are no different than their clan ancestors. It's just, it's baffling, but at the same time, it's really not all that surprising because, you know, quiet as it's kept, a lot of these people don't see anything wrong with what their ancestors have done to this planet. And I guess these two decided that they were going to go ahead and keep that tradition alive of going to an island of people, unsuspecting people, going in there. You know, the video said that they studied Haitian Creole so they could learn the language. They would go, I'm sure they were going to go in pretending to help the people, but they had a ploy, as you heard, to kill off all the men and take in the women and children as sex slaves. And 15 to 30 years is not enough. I feel like a real example needs to be made out of these two idiots they need to serve life in prison. They don't need, first of all, it's something severely wrong with them. They're deranged and they're a threat to humanity. And even if they go to prison for 15 years, who's to say they're not going to try to harm anyone and successfully get away with it the next time? So they need to be taken off the streets indefinitely. They need to serve life in prison, if you ask me, because if their plan would have been thwarted, they would have genocided a bunch of people and took in women and children as slaves. So why would they even be considering allowing these people to go back into society? It's sickening. But like I said, many of these people don't see anything wrong with what their clan ancestors have done. I've had people in conversations before say things like, Jared Taylor was notorious for saying this. He would always say that, they're not focused on fairness. They're not focused on morality. They're focused on dominance. And that's how they've gotten where they have gotten in the world, because they're not thinking about what's right and what's wrong. They're thinking about dominating the planet and dominating people, through their practices, which has been colonialism and imperialism and all these satanic, deranged tactics that they have committed against people all across the planet. So again, I don't feel like these people need to ever be released from prison, but knowing this system, they'll probably get the least amount of time in prison. But hopefully, people will feel the same way I feel about this situation, where these people are a threat to humanity and they need to be taken off the streets indefinitely. Okay, but with that being said, I'm just very happy that their plan was thwarted and that those unsuspecting people on that island off the coast of Haiti did not fall victim to this demonic, sinister plan that they had going. These people actually put time and energy and effort into this plan, which is, it's just sickening and demonic on so many levels. But again, many of these people have not deviated from the satanic, deranged, and genocidal mind frame of their clan ancestors. But again, with that being said, that's not what tonight's show is about, but I really wanted to highlight that story because, again, these people, these are the people that they think we're supposed to be intermingling with. And it's just very dangerous because unsuspecting people are being targeted by the likes of these people. And it's just extremely unfortunate. But I do want to go ahead and segue over into tonight's main topic, which is Trump's new immigration policies. Everyone is talking about it all across social media. And, there's a lot that people have to say about this because these are some of the most drastic immigration policies that many people have ever seen. So I'm going to go ahead and get into that clip, where Trump is discussing what his new, well, not Trump per se, but where it's being discussed about these new immigration policies.
One of the Guard's members, it was President Trump who announced the death of Specialist Beckstrom, one of the Guard's members he had put on crime patrol in Washington. Hours later, he announced a further crackdown on immigration. CBS News has learned it includes a pause on all asylum decisions. Weijia Jiang is in West Palm Beach, Florida.
President Trump announced he would permanently pause migration from, quote, third world countries. He is also threatening to revoke U.S. citizenship from foreign-born Americans who undermine domestic tranquility and calling for a review of all green card holders from 19 countries of concern, including Iran, Venezuela, and Afghanistan.
When you let the people come in by the thousands and thousands and thousands, They made a terrible mistake.
As the Afghan war came to a chaotic end in 2021, a program called Operation Allies Welcome allowed more than 76,000 Afghan nationals into the United States. Many of them, including the shooting suspect, had worked with the U.S. CBS News' Nancy Cordes asked President Trump about that.
He was vetted, and the vetting came up clean.
He went cuckoo. I mean, he went nuts. And that happens, too. It happens too often with these people. You see them. But look, this is how they come in. This is how they're standing on top of each other.
The Department of Homeland Security says it will be reviewing all asylum cases approved under the Biden administration. Sean Van Diver is an advocate for Afghan migrants.
My number one concern is that all these 195,000 Afghans that came here during the last administration are going to be painted with the brush of this man.
A DHS official tells CBS News the suspect's asylum case was approved under the Trump administration earlier this year.
When it comes to asylum, when they're flown in, it's very hard to get them out.
And Weijia Jiang joins us now. So the president just announced a new plan to reverse the majority of executive orders under former President Joe Biden. Did he say why?
That's right, Tom. President Trump says he is canceling all the executive orders signed by former President Biden that were used with an auto pen instead of his hand. Trump claimed without evidence that Biden was not involved when an auto pen was used, and he threatened that if Biden claims he was, he will face charges of perjury. Biden has repeatedly addressed attacks on his use of the auto pen, insisting that he made the decisions when it came to executive orders, pardons, and legislation. Tom.
Weijia Jiang, we know you'll stay on top of things. Weijia, thank you.
Okay. So, in case, you may be unaware of what took place, there was an Afghani national that shot two National Guardsmen. One of them, unfortunately, did pass away. And, of course, that sparked outrage all over the country. And Trump's response to that was that he would be pausing indefinitely immigration from third world countries. Now, there has been no concrete, layout of what countries he's referring to. But as you heard in the video, they did name a few countries. But this has caused, panic in a lot of people who may have been planning to come to the United States. But this will be by executive order. So he won't be relying on Congress to approve this. And, he's once that shooting happened, I guess that was the final, nail in the coffin, as you could say, as it relates to immigration and, how it's being perceived that people are coming into America who hate America, who don't respect America, who don't respect the American people, don't respect the culture of the country, and things like that. But Trump didn't just stop there because, with him announcing that he was going to put that indefinite ban on immigration from third world countries, there are some things that they're doing within the country with people who are already here. And, some of those things included things like cutting off financial governmental assistance to individuals, who are not naturalized citizens. So even people who have green cards and things like that, they won't be eligible for any government programs. And even crazier, they even discuss, I don't know what you call it, when someone is, they're not, you could say, like, indigenous to America, or I guess that's the way you would say it. But they did come to the country and they became a citizen. I guess you call that a naturalized citizen. So they're even talking about And this is what got a lot of people like in panic mode and outrage. They're talking about revoking citizenships from naturalized citizens that don't align with America. I guess with America's, I don't want to say culture, but people who they perceive to be anti-American, they're going to be stripping them of their citizenship. So they're going pretty hard in the paint when it comes to immigration in this country. And there's a lot of people that's saying that, you know, that situation that occurred is unfortunate, but Trump is using this as a ploy to unfairly target individuals who are immigrants in the country because they really don't want a lot of immigrants here. So they're finding any and everything that they can do to ship people out of the country, even so far as saying that they will take away citizenship from naturalized citizens who don't align with America's agenda. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But that, again, that is something that has a lot of people outraged because they're like, okay, these people came into the country legally. They went through the process the way they're supposed to go through it. And I guess because they have a different political agenda or they don't agree with certain tactics that the American government is taking, then you're going to strip their citizenship away from them. And I just want to say this because as a Black American, more specifically, a foundational Black American, when a lot of people came into this country, they didn't want to listen to us when we told them how things work here. They told us that all we did was complain and make excuses and we need to work harder and all this type of stuff. And we tried to let people know, listen, this system is not what you think it is. And unfortunately, a lot of people are starting to see that now. You know, these people, I'm not going to say they don't play fair, which they don't. But when it comes to immigration specifically, you know, there are some people in the country that just shouldn't be here. They don't have the proper documentation to be here. They came in the country under false pretenses because a lot of people said, oh, we're seeking asylum. They weren't really seeking asylum. They were basically economic refugees coming in looking to make more money. And that's not a reason to seek asylum. So a lot of these asylum cases are also being reviewed, and they're going to start overturning a lot of these asylum cases, and they're going to be sending people back to their home countries. So this is some pretty, you know, heavy stuff that's happening right now as it relates to immigration. And the way I see it is, you know, it might sound a little bit harsh, but another thing that we as Black Americans have been saying, and now even the president is saying it, we've been telling people, your citizenship is not 100% guaranteed in this country. Trump even wants to go as far as ending birthright citizenship. He's facing a lot of challenges with that. But, you know, you never know if he'll eventually get the backing that he's looking for to end birthright citizenship. So what we have been saying as foundational Black Americans is we've been telling people, you have to go home and get your homelands in order because there's no guarantee that you're going to even be allowed to stay in the United States. And people told us we were being xenophobic. We hated them. And it's like, no, we were telling you this because we're the descendants of the people that's been in this country the longest. So we understand the system more than anybody else. And it wasn't a thing of being xenophobic. It's a thing of, if you're not indigenous to the United States, then, you know, if you don't have a lineage that traces back to the origins of this country, and you are a citizen, but you're in a vulnerable position where they can take your citizenship away from you, then you have to have a contingency plan. And that contingency plan needs to be fixing your homeland. So if you do get deported, you're not going back to a place that's facing all types of economic hardships and collapsed governments. I mean, it could come to a point where they say they're just going to pause immigration until they feel like opening up again. And this is something that a lot of people didn't foresee happening, but these things are happening, and they're happening relatively quickly, because I believe it was the next day after that shooting occurred is when Trump got on TV and announced this ban 24 hours later. So again, people need to understand that, you know, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to immigrate here. And I think a lot of people had all of their eggs in one basket. And that's something that you simply just cannot do. Because again, if you're not of this soil, if your lineage doesn't trace back here, you're vulnerable to being deported out of the country. And you really don't have a leg to stand on, because this is not your home country. And again, when we tried to tell people this, we got attacked. We were told we hate people. We were told we're a cult. We were told we're a hate group. And it's like, no, we could see the writing on the wall, because, you know, a lot of people were becoming agitated with the influx of immigration in the country. And as a result of that, a lot of people voted for Donald Trump because they wanted people to be deported. And what happened with a lot of people, for some unknown reason, they felt like the Democrats were going to win this election, even though the Democrats were wildly unpopular and not too many American people wanted to vote for the Democrats.